Pep Guardiola. City beat Galatasaray by 2-0 to book a place in the round of 16. They, of course, will avoid the playoffs. Jurgen, we haven't spoken too much about Manchester City and their struggles of late. Given the standards that Pep Guardiola has set, how easy is it to rediscover that, considering they are still, because of Arsenal's problems also of late, in the title race?
Yeah, those up and downs, they are, I think it's just normal. And I mean, there's very few managers in the world like Pep Guardiola that know exactly kind of how to put things into the right perspective. You know, he knows when he's missing some results, you know, where to start fixing things. He knows where, you know, to say the right things in the right moment, you know, when the opponents kind of run away for a second and then he catches up on them again. I mean, over the years, you know, when you look back over the years, his work that he's done at Manchester City is just incredible. And that's why, you know, he never loses control. He never loses his patience. He knows also how kind of to behave when there's a bad period of time, when there are about a couple of results that are not going your way. No, it's just an admirable manager.
Haaland, of course, getting a goal today, Jurgen. He's been on a bit of a drought as a striker. How do you deal with that, certainly as someone who has been scoring goals for so long, so consistently?
Well, that's Alejandro knows that when we strikers don't score, then
Ali
we're
knows.
miserable, we are angry.
He knows it, but not sure.
We are angry. No, but it is the typical path of strikers when you have a couple of bad weeks and you don't score is go back to work, you know, go back to training sessions, you know, do all types of exercises that give you confidence, that, you know, finishing stuff. And sooner or later you put it back into the net and things are okay again. And I mean, the quality of Erling Haaland is incredible, and we all know that, you know. And if there are a couple of weeks where he doesn't score, that wouldn't bother me at all, because I know that he will work hard to get back on track, because he's so ambitious, he's so professional and so driven. Then no, I would never even worry 1 second about Erling Haaland.
Are they still in the Qarabag Cup?
Maybe. Yeah, they beat Chelsea, didn't they? 3-2 in the first leg.
Well, they might win the Qarabag Cup with that back four.
Ah, there we go.
Won't win the Champions League. I know Gay's will play, maybe Diaz will be fit at some point. Who's the other one? Gvardiol is out for a longer period. Barring a big slice of defensive luck with form or fitness, even with Gay coming into that back four, I'm not going to win the Champions League. Not even going to come close. Defending two legs against the better teams, not going to happen.
Liverpool 6, Qarabag 0. How much is this sort of result a relief then, Stevie? Considering what's
No,
been
it is a relief. Absolutely, it is. You know, you can look at it.
We saw them beat Marseille, didn't we? Easily.
Yeah.
And
What's the relief about?
Dropped the ball. That's what I'm
They're going
asking.
to make
The relief is not sitting there on the edge of your seat,
Well, you're not sitting there because
hiding
they're
your
going to make the top
eyes,
8.
hiding your eyes, waiting on something falling apart or going wrong. That's the relief of being able to watch this. And then on top of that, you just hope that the next time they step on the field in the Premier League, they can take some of that movement and some of the strikes and some of the chances and turn it into more consistent performances. That's
Saying
what
that
it's all
since
about.
match day 1.
I have been.
Everybody
That's why it's a relief to sit through this.
But this doesn't mean anything.
The only thing he sat through was 2 large packet of chips.
And they were large.
They were
very
party-sized.
large.
There was a party going on somewhere.
Look, Liverpool, you just don't know what you're going to get. And this is obviously an extremely weak team in Qarabag. At home, I think the true Liverpool is what we saw at Bournemouth at the weekend. Sort of up and down, inconsistent, making defensive mistakes. Salah's form, regardless of the free kick, which was a good free kick, it was a carbon copy of the one at Bournemouth, but when he backstepped it to Szoboszlai. But the big question will be when teams put them under more pressure.
Of course.
You know, in England and in the knockout stages of this, obviously they're going to mess around. The big question will be, is the Achilles heel going to come back and bite them in the backside? And I just don't see it going away. It's been there all season.
It's a detail. It's a small detail of the state of mind of a player. Florian Wirtz, who hasn't had the greatest time at Liverpool and has been well documented and well reported, scores a goal today. And yes, it is against Qarabag, but you're not scoring goals all the time. And is there even a celebration? Well, he just kind of scores and it's just a slow jog. And I'm thinking, man, this is a moment to find that release, to go and celebrate in front of your fans at Anfield and create some sort of connection, create some sort of bond. I'm not suggesting that that's the difference between playing well and not playing well, but it does elevate the level of confidence, not only for you, but for those around you as well, and the fans around you as well. I don't see enjoyment from Florian Wirtz. Even when he's playing well, even when he's scoring a goal, it's almost like, all right, well, let's get on with it. When he was at his best with Bayer Leverkusen, there was a certain aura about him and a certain confidence about him that I'm just not seeing at Liverpool, even when he scores a goal.
Maybe if he has a big game in the knockout stages when it comes round for them, and it sort of lights up their season. Certainly in Europe, maybe that'll be the moment for him. But it's not, because it looks like in the Premier League, it's not like they're going through the motions, but they know they're not going to win it. I mean, their fight is for the top four.
Yes.
So if they get a big moment, a big draw, some big games at Anfield, that'll be the last 16 at that point, I believe. That's when he could really step up and ignite his Liverpool career against the better sides.
Is it too simple to say that in the Premier League, Wirtz doesn't get as much time and space as he does when he plays in the Champions League? I mean, Jurgen, is that too simple to say that's really what the problem is for Wirtz?
I think it's maybe a very interesting point. Absolutely, I mean, the tempo played in the Premier League is faster than all the other leagues in Europe. And the spaces are tight and the defensive mechanisms are to perfection. I think when you go as a young kid, and he's still a young kid. We're talking about 21, 22. I'm not 100% sure now, but you move, from your home country, to a different place. And Liverpool is then kind of not only challenging him on the field, it's challenging him also off the field. You got to go there. You got to change your style, way of living, a totally different environment. Everything is new to you. Your teammates, the expectations are huge. You come with a price tag that is out of control because none of these kids that can really do anything for these transfer fee prices from 60, 80, 100 or 150 million. It's not their fault, And some are more kind of open to this new challenge than others, and it will take time. And I see in Florian over the last 6 months a path that is going through all these new moments, is going through all these new challenges, and is maturing. He's maturing. He's just getting kind of used to certain things, and step by step, he hopefully finds his way of scoring goals like he did at Leverkusen, and finds his way, to show his qualities. This kid is highly, highly talented. He has everything to prove his point in the Premier League. I don't see a problem there. But for some, it takes a little bit longer. And for some, like Woltemade, for the other German kid that got suddenly transferred to Newcastle from Stuttgart that nobody really had on his plate. He came and he just was happy from day one on and scored. So every character is different. It will be really super interesting now how it plays out with Liverpool in the next couple of months. But as long as Florian Wirtz stays healthy and kind of keeps on improving step by step, I think that he will have a very special career also in England.
A lot more, of course, about today's Champions League matches, plus looking ahead to the weekend's games across Europe. Be sure to check out YouTube. Plenty of content there for you. Inter will have to go through to the play-in matches. Dortmund will be there as well, both failing to make it through to the top 8. However, both of them advancing to the next round. Jurgen, of course, you're contractually obliged to talk about Inter when you come on. Is this a team that can make it to the final again?
I mean, yes, they can make it, but I have my doubts. I have my doubts this year because I think they missed a little bit the chance to rejuvenate their roster, their team. There are some players, they are 36, 37, 38 on the fields. And I mean, that's why they maybe rotate so much. I mean, he left Lautaro Martinez on the bench, no Bastoni, and Barella was slightly injured. The game was not offering very much. Both sides, were kind of even and didn't create many chances. So the fact that they won it at the end of the day speaks for Inter, and it doesn't speak for Dortmund in this moment. But I don't see them as strong as last year.
Good stuff. Thank you very much. A lot more on Inter, the Italian teams as well, in what happened in the Champions League on the latest edition of the Gab and Jules podcast. That, of course, drops on Thursday. 18 matches then in total today.
Go on, read them all.
In the Champions League. I won't read them all.
We'll have a cup of tea.
No,
read them all.
there's a couple of names I still can't pronounce, so let's not do that. We will look at the table just to confirm. Arsenal 100% record. They've won every single game. Behind Liverpool, Spurs, Barcelona, Chelsea, Sporting up there. Manchester City in the top 8, as we've mentioned in quite some detail. Those teams that have finished mid-table and those that are out include the likes of Marseille, PSV, Athletic Club and Villarreal. Take a look at the big... What's interesting, Jürgen, I wanted to take your view on this, and we've discussed this over the last couple of weeks. 5 Premier League teams in the top 8. What does that tell us?
Well, it tells us that the music is played in England. The music is played in the Premier League. You know, they are just a step, or maybe it's 2 steps ahead of all the other big leagues. You know, it's the Bundesliga, the Serie A, and the Spanish league, the French league. Obviously, they're trying to catch up with the Premier League, but it's pretty much impossible.
But there's no way Tottenham are the 4th best team in this competition. So this table is a bit of an anomaly to me at this moment in time. And I think what we'll see is everything coming out in the wash. As soon as we get to this knockout stage, however teams have made it to where they are, I think it's all going to come out in the wash when it gets to the 2-headed games.
I understand that, but when you say come out in the wash, you mean Barcelona, Real Madrid, PSG, Bayern Munich. The problem is the rest, the also rounds, can't compete anymore, can they? With the bigger boys,
because they never could.
Because they didn't. But there was always, you felt, a chance. But now because of the budget, now because, as Jürgen said.
But who's the other boys? I mean, even in the old format, even in the old.
Well, we saw Inter Milan, of course, make it well last year. Borussia Dortmund the year before. You know, there always seems to be other teams that are playing.
Well, Inter Milan their team has got older and their manager went to Saudi Arabia. You know, Lautaro Martinez was very vocal about that in the summer. You know, he was vocal about Çalhanoğlu wanting to leave and go somewhere else, and players. So I think
but if I give a team $1 billion budget,
I think the Inter scenario is the Inter squad was a big squad, but it's, as Jürgen said, it's kind of at the end of its tether. It's needing a rotation now of younger players. I get what you're saying. There isn't the money in Italy. There isn't the money in Germany. There isn't the money in France. That even in Spain, to a certain extent, out with the big 2, that there is in England. But I think at the end of the day, it's only my opinion. It doesn't matter how much money there is in England. When it comes to the crunch, I think Liverpool will get knocked out. I think Tottenham will get knocked out. And I think Manchester City will get knocked out. I think the only team in England, for all the money they've got, that are going to be standing up with a puncher's chance is Arsenal. Now, I might be wrong, but for Liverpool and Man City to even have a chance of damaging the best teams in this competition, their seasons are going to have to go full circle. And we haven't, particularly Liverpool, we haven't seen that. Arsenal, I think, for all the Premier League's money, unless I'm missing something with Liverpool and Man City defensively, would you sit here, Stevie, who would you...
No, but my point isn't who's going to win it. I'm just saying, I don't think it's an anomaly, as you're saying, that 5 out of the top 8 are English, are the richest teams when compared to the rest. I'm not sure who else you're putting into that conversation.
So because...
Well, I'm putting a lot of teams in above Tottenham.
8 games. Because you're playing 8 games, you're probably playing 3 good teams and 5 teams that are not just quite there. And the fact that all the Premier League teams are able to just brush aside the other 5 is why maybe we've got 5 teams in the top 8. There are so many things that can cause what we're talking about. Like even the way the game's played. We've been talking over the last couple of years of how a lot of the games that we watch in the Premier League have not been entertaining. But then, because the teams have got more money and they can bring in better players and stronger both physically and mentally, it's harder for teams to break them down in the Premier League, which makes it sometimes boring. Then you throw in the way teams play. Man City kicking it all off with this, just keeping the ball and not trying to go, put balls in the box. There are so many things that can cause what we're talking about. But I think ultimately, at this stage of the competition, is because the Premier League teams have been able to brush away without any problem whatsoever against the teams that they should and do beat.
The schedules for each team are totally different. You're not playing against the same team, so it's not the same opposition. And so to Stevie's point, yeah, so Spurs are able to beat Kairat Almaty or whoever is it that they play, and you kind of go, well, yeah, I think they should. But as it pertains to looking forward into this competition, I think those that are remaining in Champions League would prefer to play against Spurs than, say, Atletico Madrid, for example. And that's when you start going into the path that Craig was talking about and what he was alluding to, that eventually you're going to get into a place in which these teams that are superior to Slavia Praga, superior to FC Copenhagen, they're not quite better than Barcelona, quite better than Real Madrid. And even I would say that a team like Borussia Dortmund could be a dangerous team to play in Champions League, even for a Premier League team. So making sweeping statements, it's always
It's what he does.
It's a
I don't know
slippery.
what sweeping statement did I make?
It's a slippery slope in saying.
Well, yeah, it's the sweeping statement. Sorry, Ali, to say that 5 of the whatever Premier League teams are in the Premier League's great. I think that's wrong.
I don't think I'm saying. I don't think I use the word great. The Premier League is the richest.
Yeah.
And I think on these sort of occasions you see why.
No, I'm not saying that.
You're not.
No, because
this isn't an. I don't think this is the anomaly.
Well,
you
Man
think
City,
it is.
Man City are not in the top 8, even though they're a very rich Premier League team. PSG are not in the top 8. Inter, who are not the best at the moment, are not in the top 8.
City on the top 8.
Huh?
City's on the top 8.
Are they?
Yeah, quietly he told you.
So you got 5 teams there, and I just think this is a trend that's going to continue. I don't see what will break it. I don't know why we'll be sat here next year.
Well, it's
and there won't be
cyclical.
another,
I remember.
I don't know why there won't be another 5 Premier League teams here.
I remember just before I moved here from the UK, and at that point the Premier League was still the richest in Europe by far. I'm talking about 2010 to 2011, 2012. And around one of those periods, I can't remember when it was, the Premier League teams were getting battered in the Champions League. They were really struggling. It was the old format, but they were really struggling to get results. And all the talk was, oh, this is a terrible look for the Premier League with all its money. So just because you have the most money doesn't mean it's going to continue. I think it is cyclical to an extent. And I think this group stage, this 36-team thing does throw up these anomalies of teams in certain positions. I mean, it's like Sporting Club of Portugal been in there. So, yeah, I know what you're saying. But I think the very fact that Tottenham are in there, I'm sorry to keep going on about Tottenham, I think the very fact Tottenham are in there tells you that it can throw up these stories, because they, at the moment, are a pretty terrible side.
Jurgen, last word on this, or do you want to go home?
He's home.
He is.
Oh, you are home. Yeah, it's true.
No, I love that discussion. No, I love the discussion, and that's what enjoy talking about. I think now we obviously enter in a different phase of the Champions League, the knockout phase, and there anything can happen. And it's a different story if you play cup competition, as we all know, than your normal domestic league. And a lot of surprises can happen also in the next round, and this is the beauty of the game. But eventually, we're going to see the big names in the last 4, last 8. It's just how it is. But I think the new format of the Champions League is exciting. Got us a lot of surprising results over the last couple of months, or last year as well. Very enjoyable.
Good stuff, Jurgen. Thank you.
You went down that road on purpose, didn't you?
What road?
Just to be a little ass.
Wow.
Well, you did, didn't you? I'll have that Premier League strong discussion with you again. You want?
I don't think it's the last.